Hey guys, Greg here to talk to you once again about Manscaped, the champions in below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped has over 2 million men worldwide who have trusted their product, the Lawnmower 4.0, and with this exclusive offer from First Issue Club, you too can get 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code FIC20. That's FIC20 at manscaped.com. Now, last time I talked to you about how I had upgraded my razor game from these rusty old pair of scissors I used to have to the Lawnmower 4.0. Well, now I want to talk to you about, the time you're going to save with this new exclusive premium razor from manscaped.com, the Lawnmower 4.0. I used to give myself what I called the Snyder cut. It took 4 hours to get through. People were unimpressed when they saw it, and no one really asked for it. With the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0, trimming your downstairs hair is a breeze. You are in and out, and you're on with your busy day. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code FIC20. That's FIC20 at manscaped.com. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Hey, welcome to the First Issue Club podcast. We are your weekly comic book podcast where we review and read together first issues only each and every week because they are the gateway drug to all comics and all things happening in the comic book world. We're here today. It's me, Budget King.
And also Mike D.
The two of us, the duo. And we're going to do first issues. And the first issues that we're going to do this week are Echoland and Darkhawk.
You remembered them.
Yes. Darkhawk.
They were memorable comics.
Yeah, I'm excited to actually talk about them. Darkhawk is the famous 90s book.
Yep.
And Echolands is a new Image book out, kind of launching a whole new world and stuff.
New. We love new.
That's the only thing we like. I think that's what bonds us and our listeners together is our obsession with new.
New works for a lot of different people, whether you're someone who owns white gloves just for reading comics or you don't understand grading. This podcast is for you too, you joker.
We've got a ton of news to cover this week, so I'm really excited to dip into some news. The first thing I want to start off with, which I felt like, I even heard on regular pop radio today them talking about this.
Whoa.
This guy was nerding out about this. The new Spiderman trailer that came out.
Okay, I gotta admit, and I'm so embarrassed, I don't know what happened in it. Haven't seen it.
You've been too busy.
I've been way too busy. You know this. I know this. We're both 12-hour workday sort of guys lately.
Yeah, it's kind of insane.
I know.
So this will be a great review because I've only listened to it. I actually don't. I don't do.
You listen to it.
I don't do any visual medium anymore.
You listen to Twitch while you're working.
Exactly.
You just hear people playing video games.
Right. Yeah. So I've listened to the trailer. Do you know anything about why people are kind of going crazy about it?
No.
So it's essentially they're kind of like Enter the Spider-Verse.
Uh-huh.
They're multiversing.
Oh, that's right.
This.
The title had something to do with multiverse, right?
I think it does. It's No Way Home.
No Way Home. And then the Doctor Strange one was called Multiverse of Madness.
Exactly.
Something.
And Doctor Strange is in this Spider-Man.
Tie-in.
Yeah. So they reveal a bunch of different Spider-Mans, like Peter Parker, including a Darkhawk. Kind of reference stuff.
Okay, cool.
So, sorry if I'm spoiling this for you, actually.
Nah, I think I would rather MCU movies get spoiled for me than actual comics, so.
Okay.
I can deal. Well, a trailer too. That's not a spoiler.
Right, okay.
There's some people who are like, I want to go in so blind that I don't even know who the actors are.
Right.
It's come on. Chill out. We can talk about the trailers.
So, okay, here's the thing for me. People were going so nuts about this trailer, so hyped on it. And I'm like, were you really hyped on that first Spider-Man where he, goes to England?
So, yeah, that was the sequel.
Right.
For what's that kid's name? Tom Holland. Spider-Man movies, and I think that those were like
But this builds on that movie, right?
it's a sequel.
Yeah.
So in some respects, yeah. But I'm also like I didn't think those movies were like blow your mind crazy good.
No.
I think people were just so used to Marvel movies and Spider-Man movies being bad, like after the Andrew Garfield and
Right.
Spider-Man 3, that it was just like, oh, B+ Spider-Man, like I'll take it.
That's the movie was essentially a B+ at best. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Zendaya's in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, great to have.
So that makes it good.
I guess, coming off her HBO fame and all that kind of stuff. So, but like to me, it's like the hype on this movie is like, it reminds me of like Terminator and then Terminator Judgment Day, when everybody was like nobody talks about Terminator 1.
No, yeah, right.
But everybody's a big Terminator T2 Judgment Day
Yes.
fan. I think the same scenario is going to happen here, where it's like,
oh, this movie coming up is going to be the one.
this is the Spider-Man that they're pumped about, and they're going to be like, technically there was movies before this.
But yeah, we don't discuss them.
Right. It has a lot of hype. The trailer sounded great. Benedict Cumberbatch's voice was crisp in my ear.
I love it. Dolby Digital in your house. I think that this would have been an insane movie had it not been leaked like 2 years ago that like Tobey Maguire was going to potentially be in it.
That was their big, I remember.
That's like their big thing. And it would have been, imagine showing up to this movie not knowing that like they were going to hop across universes and like maybe even have like the Daredevil guy and the Punisher guy and all kinds of people in this movie. Like it would have blown your mind in the theaters. So it's too bad in a sense that like some of that got blown, but I'm still it's going to be fun no matter what when you do something crazy.
This is like the cameo movie that everybody wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So they should have called it just like cameo film.
Do you think movies and TV are getting better because they're realizing that like people aren't stupid? That we can understand like nuance and fill in the blanks? They never would have made a movie like this 20 years ago where they're like, characters from other movies are in this movie? Like, what?
Totally. Like, I mean, I think movies, even like Lego Movie, like you watch that and you're like, that movie's smart. Like it treats you like you're not an idiot.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. It's the new gold standard and it's working.
Okay.
Movies today are better than they were 20 years ago. Any movie, you could take it.
Fast 9 is better than Forrest Gump.
Right. Only if you're listening to it, though. Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah, not watching it. All right. Did you see that? You know that Oblivion song, the
Kirkman book?
Yes. Got options?
No, I didn't.
That's old news. But they cast somebody in it.
Okay.
The lead is going to be Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, okay. Big star attached.
So it's like, it kind of went from like, oh, cool, another indie book. Like, I can't name anybody in Sweet Tooth, although it's,
a kid that stars in it.
Yeah, right? It's like, oh, this indie comic that went to like the screen land of sorts is now going to be a big deal, I think. I think Jake Gyllenhaal is still beloved.
This is going to be a movie?
I think it's I thought it was going to be a show. But
okay.
Who knows these days?
Yeah.
Actors do whatever they want. Actresses, they, in and out of...
I kind of had wondered what was going to happen with Kirkman media, Skybound Media stuff, because Walking Dead was such a big hit, and then Outcast they put like a ton of money and press into, and it just didn't take off for whatever reason.
Yeah, it kind of flopped.
And I know that he's got like the
shark hunter or whatever. Bounty shark.
The Invincible.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
cartoon.
Yeah.
You were thinking of Mark Millar, I think.
Oh, you're right. I was thinking the Marmalade.
Sharky the bounty
there
hunter.
we go. Sorry. Yeah.
But yeah, Invincible's doing great, but it's different because that's a cartoon, right? It doesn't have like the major production that a big
people love
TV show have.
Invincible,
But people like it, right? That's fine. But I've been kind of wondering if he's going to come back and do like they're going to take another swing at large, sweeping television series, fantasy series with him.
I'm kind of pumped about Oblivion Song because like when I like
The concept of it, I remember being pretty cool.
I read like through issue 3 or 4 and I was kind of like,
Uh-huh.
but I was like, it's a cool concept.
Yeah.
Like a lot of Kirkman stuff. Like you're just like, this is cool in concept. I
Mhm.
don't know that I'm like gripped by the writing.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be good. It'll be fun to watch. You remember at one of our comic book stores how they had this toy that was like $300 always sitting on the cash register for Oblivion Song? Just like sitting there forever, and it's like who
is going to buy an
who the
Oblivion
fuck
song? I'm
was gonna-
such a big Oblivion song fan.
I'm a fan of this niche.
One trade in, and I got to have all the stuff.
Not a bad investment now that it's Jake Gyllenhaal though.
Yeah,
So,
all right.
egg on our face.
Yeah.
This is the Keanu Reeves buying his own cyberpunk figurine.
I
thing.
wonder if you can replace the head. If they'll send you a replacement that looks like Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh yeah, am I saying his name wrong?
I say Gyllenhaal. What were you
It's a-
saying?
I said I said it with a hard G,
Mm-hmm.
but it's probably Gyllenhaal. Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Gyllenhaal.
Gyllenhaal. You're right.
That's what I say.
Yeah. Okay.
The bunny man himself, Donnie
Oh yeah.
Celador. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, cellar door.
That's
You
what-
said it weird, but yeah.
In Donnie Darko, the beginning of it, Drew Barrymore plays his teacher.
Mhm.
And it was so weird for me, someone my age, to be like, wait, Drew Barrymore's playing like
From E.T.
an old lady teacher?
Maybe I'm old.
Shocking realization. But she's like an English teacher, and she's like, class, do you know what the 2 most beautiful words in the English language are? Cellar door. Cellar door.
And then they have a cellar door.
And then there's a cellar door later.
yeah,
That movie's so up its own butt.
we've gone down this road before.
Have we?
Because I like it.
You love that movie.
Well, it's like nostalgia, you know. It's like
I think for like, if you were a hipster in the early aughts, then yeah.
it was one of those first movies. Speaking of movies that made you feel smart, when I watched it, I was like, oh, I get this.
I felt dumb because I had no clue what was
It
going on.
didn't really end. Oh yeah, cool. It's like it felt like being into like some like weird niche porn or something, and being like, no, I'm owning that.
I would love to see a 13-year-old try to explain Donnie Darko to his dad.
No,
You're
Dad,
like-
it's the
you're
space
like
time continuum.
45-year-old dad who just like sports and hates
Man,
art movies.
Tears for Fears would have no career without that movie. I feel like
They had a career before that movie.
currently though, like they wouldn't like it was the resurgence of them, kind of.
I kind of hear you. I think
I don't know.
Songs from the Big Chair stands up no matter what.
I don't know. They're no David Bowie, right?
Completely different. Uncomparable.
You're right. Yeah, different genres. Let's go into more news. So, did you see? We're not covering this book, but I do want to talk about it. That King Spawn came out.
Yeah.
Do you know that it's the first like new solo title of a Spawn book since 1992?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Wild.
Yeah, they never do
Like Spawn spinoffs.
yeah,
Weird.
right? So, one other cool thing about this is friend of the pod. I don't know if you saw this. Sean Lewis
Uh-huh.
is writing it from the Coyotes book and all that kind of stuff. Where we did an interview with him a long time ago.
He's like co-writing it?
No, he is the writer.
Of King Spawn.
Oh yeah.
I thought Donnie Cates was.
No, Donny Cates has a different book.
Okay.
So I don't know which book.
He worked on a variant cover then.
He did do a variant cover, and
Okay.
it looks great.
But Todd McFarlane also worked on it with him, so I'm not totally sure what he did.
Oh, is that why it
exactly.
looks great?
I think so.
Okay, because I saw it and I was like, this doesn't look like the shitty Donny Cates artwork that I normally
He might
see.
have done the base sketch,
Okay,
and then Todd McFarlane just drew Awesome Spawn on top of it.
right. Okay, so I read this King Spawn book.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Okay,
So
I have so many questions. Did it get rid of the narration?
it did.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So that was like +1, right?
Yeah.
The one weird thing is it does go into like all these different characters again. So you're
Uh-huh.
flashing through these characters like when we covered Spawn before. That's
Yep.
like the one tough thing. The only reason we're not covering Spawn is like we're not big Spawn heads.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like
It's kind of in the weeds.
it's tough to cover a Spawn book.
Yeah.
But like when I read it, I was like, this is kind of just like Batman mixed with Preacher.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, if that's what it is, then it's really good.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was solid.
Cool.
Like it was like I really enjoyed it. So it's a good start to a book. It's like a first appearance if that's like your Spawn. If you get your jollies off on Spawn.
This is a first appearance?
There was a first appearance in this.
Oh, yeah, because I was going to say King Spawn's already appeared in
yes,
things.
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This book had with it like a really exclusive variant cover that Todd McFarlane signs and hand numbers,
Yes,
signed in red.
correct.
And the deal was for every 250 copies of King Spawn you ordered, you got one of these signed copies, I think until they ran out or something. My shop got 2. He ordered 500 copies
Whoa.
to get these 2 Todd McFarlane signed books.
Are they the sketch variants or no? No.
I don't know. The cover is white,
Yeah.
and there's like a Spawn in the corner, but it doesn't look like sketch or
Okay.
anything.
Okay.
But in any case, I think he's selling them for $1,000 each, and he sold one already. And he had one just sitting in a normal bag and board.
Wait, at your shop?
Yes, behind the counter, he just had one just sitting, leaning
Can
on
you
the wall.
imagine that? Like $1,000.
He was like, "You should buy it," and I was like, "Oh, I don't think so."
$1,000 buys a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then you just have this one. I guess if you're gonna flip it,
Mm-hmm.
like that's maybe I don't know. So anyway, King Spawn, it's cool. Oh, the thing I was gonna say, this book made me really realize how much I just love Todd McFarlane.
Yeah.
The like notes in the back, he's cool. He's wearing his weird ass like old man Oakleys.
Yep.
He's just a chill guy who loves comic books, loves the industry,
Agree.
and big fan. So go him. Okay, did you see this weird thing about Bad Idea, the publisher?
No.
So
What a weird ongoing saga of like news. Like we talked for a while back about how Bad Idea said they were going under, but it was like a joke.
we knew it, and then they never addressed it because it was so obvious that they weren't going under.
Yeah.
That to me is their like, that's my final straw with them. I have no patience for Bad Idea anymore. I don't give a shit about them anymore.
I just go ahead and like pre-order the books
I do too.
because it's like if you don't pre-order them, there's a chance you're just never going to get to read them.
They're a step above like some indie presses that I'm
Uh-huh.
like, the books are never going to be valuable.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, but it's like, so I want them, and there's authors I like on them,
Uh-huh.
but I don't really respect them as a publisher. This interesting thing that they're doing. So I didn't even know this.
Yeah.
Supposedly, and I don't know if this is all stores, but it might be. If you purchase the first Bad Idea comic from your store, you got a gold coin,
Uh-huh.
of which they didn't tell you what it did.
Okay.
And so like it was currency, seemingly in some way, like
Yeah.
Bad Idea currency. They just released that they're gonna have some comic books, and I don't know if they're variants or actual comic books that are only purchasable with these
the
coins.
gold coins.
Yeah.
Oh God, the gold. We're checking the gold coins on eBay. Have you seen what one looks like?
I haven't even seen what they look like.
Yeah, I haven't. This is the first I'm hearing of them. Our old friend, eBay.com.
Bad Idea gold coin.
Nerd Fuel. Bad Idea coin. It doesn't even autofill. $20.
Okay. So you could buy it and get the comic then.
Gold pin. There's only one on eBay that I'm seeing.
Well, they exist.
Should we buy it? Oh, here's the second one. $182.50.
Yeah, that first one might be wrong then. So weird.
Are they the same button? Yeah, they look the same.
Ooh.
$20 or best offer, or $200.
Yeah, let's get it. Then we get a $20 book.
There's also people selling bad idea stickers that say Final Five for like $60.
Which also might be like
a way to trade something in.
Yeah. Anyway, bad idea is, I guess they're wrecking the market, and that's what they want to do.
Someone's selling one for $1,000.
Well, there's no offers on that one, though. So they're trying to get $1,000. So anyway.
Fuck off.
Is the coin a button? Is that what we're seeing?
It's just a button.
Fuck you, then. They didn't even.
Yeah.
They couldn't even like get a coin, like an actual coin made. Anyway, maybe I have a coin because I've pre-ordered some of these. Does it come with the comic?
No.
Oh, you got to get.
I've gotten a lot of bad idea comics, and I haven't seen any of these.
Okay, you got to get handed it at the shop.
Probably.
I'm sure some of the shops kept them. That's the bad idea that they have. Anyway, I don't know. I hate this because it's like kind of a fun idea, and it's kind of cool.
But we're also left out of it.
Right, so fuck them. Yes, screw you, bad idea. We're not on the... People were sleeping overnight for these.
For these pins?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, piss off.
Because they got to be like the first,
Yeah.
So, anyway, last bit of news that I have, this is all kind of like speculation. It's interesting. So, the official announced badge sponsor of New York Comic Con is Source Point Press.
Source Point Press has enough money to be the official sponsor?
So here is the speculation on that.
Uh-huh.
The badge sponsor, the official sponsor when I went there.
All it was that their characters were on your badges?
Well, their characters on the badges, it's a big deal because it's like you kind of like trade based on what day you go.
Yeah.
So when I went once, it was like AMC's Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I went and it was like Marvel and it was all like Venom stuff or whatever.
They're normally pretty big.
Huge.
Property.
Yeah.
C2E2, we went and they were like brand new Netflix anime.
Exactly, yeah. So for this to be Source Point Press, they're speculating that maybe Comic-Con in New York is
doing so well.
Going through bad times. That there may not be a lot of attendance there. That they might have had to drop the price on the badge price, and it might not be the strong showing that they once thought it was. Now, that could be wrong, and Source Point Press just bought the Super Bowl commercial, and they just thought they were going to go for it. They were one of those comic books publishers that I reference where it's like their books are never worth anything. And they don't do bad books, but they don't necessarily hit with like.
Yeah.
So anyway, some interesting con fodder for you.
It'll be wild to see what cons are like over the next year. I feel like after having rescheduled things so many times, people are kind of like, we have to do it now and just see who shows up. You and I went to a convention this past weekend in Kansas City. I think we're going to talk about that more on the Patreon, though.
We are, yeah. We were safe. We social distanced.
Yeah.
I don't think I have COVID.
Same.
But,
And we went on the least busy day.
Yes.
We did Friday day.
Yeah, there was nobody there.
And there wasn't hardly anybody there.
Yeah, nobody famous either.
Teaser.
Yep, so we'll do that in the Patreon. And now we're going to get into our books.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, baby. We're going to start with Echolands, which is on Image Comics.
All right, so you read this digitally, correct?
Correct.
So do you know what the format of the book is?
Oh, okay. This is why it read so well digitally then.
You just keep swiping to the right?
Yeah, now I understand. Okay, that makes so much more sense. So it is landscape.
They printed it landscape. So if you're imagining imagine the staples in the top of your comic instead of on the side.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, it's weird.
Was that enjoyable? I've read a landscape comic before, but they were on the top though, so you flipped it like a calendar?
No, so the thing was it wasn't. So you know how this isn't like Barrier. You know how Barrier you turned the comic sideways and then lifted up?
Yeah.
This is the spine is on the small side of the comic.
Okay, I've read a comic like that.
Have
before.
you?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what It almost seems like the number one thing to talk about with the comic is the format and just be like, why did they do this? And like, why don't more comics do it? Because it stands out so much at the shop that you're just like, oh, that's weird. I'll pick it up.
I think it's got to be hard to do.
It probably costs a lot because it's atypical.
Yeah. And this artist that like did it is really good, like really solid. Dave Stewart. And he hadn't done anything for a while, but he was doing these like sci-fi books that are like mind-blowing. This comic book, I forgot the series. It's like the guy that writes Discworld.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like he had like a comic book series. Maybe it was called like Promethea.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And so like I wouldn't read a single word of that comic book, but I would just look at the artwork.
Yep.
And it's like I have a couple issues and like that's the standout thing here.
I thought the art in this was going to suck because the graphic design was bad. And this is something that you don't really recognize
It's
on
a great take.
a lot of comics, but certain books have designers credited. Like a lot of Jonathan Hickman books do.
Oh yeah.
And that's why you're seeing the like charts and graphs that are cool and interesting compositions on things and really weird cool logos. All the Maneater books have a graphic designer on them because they're doing weird, interesting covers and the formatting those like ads in the middle.
I've seen worse graphic design.
I mean, for me, like all the line weights on the cover were different and like the font didn't seem to like mesh with everything. And then there's this like thick ass bold number 1 and it just didn't flow or make sense to me.
Yeah.
And it really does. It makes it look so much more like a self-published book,
Right.
rather than
Okay.
something you would expect to be on Image Comics because some of those little things weren't like dialed in like they normally would be.
Right. Yeah, and they talk about how this book has like been on the back burner for like a year and a half for them. And so to be honest, you don't get much from this book. It's just a world setter.
Yeah.
Which is like Echolands kind of tells you that. It gave me like strong Fables vibes. Like it's like, oh, this is going to be a really in-depth, beautiful world. And
Yeah.
the character development was like super strong. It's like definitely worth dipping into, but like story-wise, I was like robbery kind of. Like it was just like,
Here's what was funny to me about the robbery. I'm getting into this. I'm giving this book too much of a hard time, but
I think it's good, to be honest.
Let me move forward.
Yeah.
I was like, if you're going to be robbing someone and then running through a village to escape, the last thing I would wear would be a bright red cloak, especially if it was medieval times and everyone else was wearing like neutrals and had dirt brown clothes. And then you're trying to escape in bright red, head to toe.
I think this book went way more character design and world building than they did story.
Logistics and story, yeah.
Because it's like, if you could summarize the story of this entire book in like 4 sentences,
Yeah.
you know, so it's like, and we don't know much about the characters. When I say character design, I'm mostly talking about the actual like look of them, which is very like in depth and tells you a lot about it. Like they're designed really well.
Yeah.
But like story wise, I'm like, I don't know here.
The girl has an affliction or something that they call the red.
She can make you bubble up and burst.
She can make your head explode, but they call her power the red. And I didn't really get context for what exactly that was, and maybe that's something we figure out more of later. I initially thought it was going to be like
An STD.
a period thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like they were going to be like she came of age and everything changed. And it was
Okay.
going to kind of be, I don't know, like allegorical for like a woman coming of age. But I don't know if I didn't get that in the end of the book. So maybe that's not the point of it.
And the world itself, I don't know if you took a look at the world, but it was like rhinoceros, robot, like zany bucket man.
I missed some of those details, I think.
It was kind of like Wizard of Ozzy.
Yeah.
and stuff. Like if you kind of just like look at it, like it seemed like amorphous in that like I don't know what this world is.
Yeah.
But that I kind of liked too. Like I honestly think the artwork here just like the writing is like soft and the artwork just like explodes and goes nuts.
When you've got like what I don't know what you would call the aspect ratio of it, like 21:9, like it
Right.
was so wide. You can just do certain things with comic book panels that you've just like never seen before, right? So it definitely had that wow factor of like you seeing a character like jump across panels like for so
It
far
worked.
that
It
it was
worked
cool.
on my phone better than almost any digital thing I've read.
And maybe that's like maybe more comics follow this format ultimately because it just does make sense to just like swipe right instead of moving like down into the corner and then zooming in really close to like a small word bubble and then backing out. So
Panel
you can see the
Syndicate
whole
attempts
panel.
to do this.
Do they? Yeah.
With a lot of their books.
Right. Yeah. They know you're buying it on like computers, so they can kind of format that ahead of time. I don't know. It was interesting. I'll have to pull the comic out so you can look at it in print just because it's kind of an experience.
I just like to experience mediums in their non-traditional form.
Great.
You know, I'm the guy that wears a cat in a hat to work.
Do you remember any bands printing their CDs sideways? And they made it like you flip the CD case like up instead of sideways.
Oh.
I remember just that being like, the first time I saw that, I was like, fucking shit. Broke my brain.
It's the
I'm
same.
like a 13-year-old, and I'm like, this is insane.
It's slightly the same thing with like vinyl, like colored vinyl, where it's like now only people buy colored vinyl.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want it if it's black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean that's definitely a thing. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
One of our Patreon members feels that way, and so, but yeah, it like became the new norm. So maybe that's what happens here now. Is just all comics go this way.
Yeah, shaped like a star. You want to write the first puke-shaped comic?
Oh yeah, like a little blob.
It looks like a puddle.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be great for the printing press.
Perfect. Yeah.
The old die cut paper
Yes,
paper
exactly.
cut. That's got to be cheap, I'm sure.
Use once, never again.
25 copies. Bad idea. Patent this.
Yeah, bad idea. I should do this.
Yeah. Make your exclusive thing. All right, let's get to our next book.
Okay.
Which is Darkhawk.
Yep.
Which I think the only thing you can really say about this book is like the preamble of it is that it was big in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I think Stan Lee made this character.
Is it the last character he made?
I don't know if that's true or not.
Something like that sounds right. I know that I think She-Hulk was the last Stan Lee book that he maybe actually wrote or like actually edited on, whatever the case is. But I think he still had his hands in like some creation past She-Hulk.
Okay. And I think it's the 30th anniversary of the character.
That's
so
fucking crazy,
it's
isn't
like
it?
91. Yeah.
Yeah. I cannot believe it's been
30 years.
Ugh.
Which is, yeah. And so for us growing up, this is like the textbook 90s.
Oh,
Like-
yeah. He was like a cool
All about the
dude.
looks.
Yeah.
Very light on the story
Mhm.
for what I remember. I had a bunch of these books. And that's what I wanted. A guy that could, turn into a suit that flies and have crazy agility and
Yeah.
random powers and was a kid like me.
Uh-huh.
And so like that's what the 90s were all about, And
Uh-huh.
so that's all this book has to go on.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of like deep like richness, and this character wasn't one that really lasted.
Uh-huh.
So it's like ducked and weaved around and appeared in different places, but here we have like the full book. Kyle Higgins is doing the book.
Yeah.
Um
Working on Radiant Black right now.
which is kind of ironic because Radiant Black is
very similar.
very similar
storyline.
to this book.
Yes.
So like I think most people, that's not a hot take. That's just like an obvious take.
Yeah.
So if anybody's reading Radiant Black, he's mostly known for doing Power Rangers before that.
Yeah.
And is a good writer actually. Like
Yep.
done some really cool stuff. So is taking this book and giving it a new story, making it a basketball player, all that kind of stuff.
Do you feel like Basketball Player is kind of on par with like things that were cool in the 90s that they would like make comic book characters like skateboarders and shit? Is like Hotshot Basketball Player the equivalent of that now?
I don't know if it's like much more now than it was then.
Yeah.
That's almost iconoclast. Like
Yeah.
basketball's always cool, even when they were granny shotting it. Yeah, no, you're right though. I mean, it's like they pick something that's relatable.
Yeah.
People want to be like, okay. I don't think this book is a teen book, but it had a teen feel to it for sure.
To me, it seemed like a teen book.
Yeah. So here's the thing: this book's strength, and disagree with me if you want, is that the character has MS, and is experiencing MS, and then they're gonna in the letters to the editor, they're gonna do an interview with a person that has MS, and everyone, and like, yeah, shout out to my brother who got diagnosed with MS at 25, so I care about MS.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the general public is gonna like buy into this being like, oh yeah, Darkhawk, the MS book. Like that's the real like selling point for it is like, yeah, sure, there does need to be an MS book. That's great, but like, is that we're gonna hang our hat on that for this being like the big thing for it?
My experience with this book was like, it's about a kid who plays basketball who gets MS, and it's a tragic story. And then all of a sudden at the end, he starts fighting crime in a power suit that miraculously appears. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm reading Darkhawk.
Yes.
Like so much of the comic is like character driven and building who he is as a person and what his family's like and the shattering of your dreams and coping with such a big change in life. Like you totally forget it's a superhero thing. And you don't forget I'm not saying like I forgot it's a superhero thing and it turned into like an A24 movie, because it's not that.
No.
It was much more like, this is where I got like the teen vibe. It was kind of like your life changes. It's not always what you think it's going to be. And that's part of growing up and being an adult. So I enjoyed it for what it was. I like that the main characters are Asian. I think that's great. I think it's cool that his buddy, who he's on the team with, is also like one of the bad guys. That was like a reveal at the end.
Yeah.
But Darkhawk just kicked these guys' butts, and he doesn't realize he just like beat up one of his best friends.
I think they weave in the villains really well into it. Like it was a solidly written book.
They introduced the bad guy really early on.
Yeah.
As like a washed up jock who's like passing the torch to this next guy.
So
and it was a good way to like say, we're introducing this guy as like in a torch passing scene, so you kind of get the idea of who he is to the school and to the town.
Right.
And he didn't necessarily like have to serve another purpose. So it wasn't like, okay, this is going to be the bad guy later. Like it was an okay transition.
I thought it was good. I also think Kyle Higgins is like the perfect person to select for this, having written for Power Rangers, where it's like he knows the story of young person who's also a crime fighter and uses a power suit.
Yeah.
So much so that he did it in Radiant Black.
Yeah.
The one thing that I actually think this comic was super sensitive to MS and actually like told the story in a way that I've never seen a comic book like do before. But I'm a little bit curious where it's like, does having the suit solve his MS? Because that doesn't seem very sensitive to be like,
Yeah, does he still experience symptoms of MS while he's in the suit?
Like it's like he has a magical solution for his MS. He has
Right.
this suit that he can wear.
Totally.
Where it's like
That's not a great lesson.
no, and it's not very respectful to MS, which is a debilitating disease that only gets worse or stabilizes
Right.
for you. There is no
That's a good point. I agree. Yeah, if this turns up to be like, I'm having an episode, I suit up and I'm like, sweet, I can go back to kicking ass at life.
it'd be like if you had a blind character who had like a magic cane, right? That allowed them to see. And it's like cool that you have a character experiencing blindness, but
You're describing Daredevil, by the way.
not very relatable.
You're like literally describing Daredevil.
Yeah, I guess that's true, actually.
It's a blind guy with the cane that lets him fly around the city, and he can do it with his radar sense.
So, I mean, it sounds like I'm knocking this book, but I'm actually just like questioning it a little bit.
I'll say, though, that like the list of superheroes with physical disabilities is pretty short.
Sure.
So I guess good job there.
Totally. Great job.
For just like even doing it.
And the interview in the end of the comic book was great, to be honest. Like, it was really good. I think they're going to do another MS interview every time. So this was, it was a solid book. I saw like a lot of comments on this book being like, I'm grabbing Darkhawk end of list this week. Or like
only comic people are gonna buy this week.
Just being like saying like I'm hyped about it. Like I'm like that's the book I'm gonna buy.
Yeah.
Because like there was a Cable one shot, there was like an Avengers annual, there was obviously like King Spawn, there was like some things happening, but this
Superman 78.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Oh, and Lobo versus Batman on Black Label.
Superman.
There we go.
I think.
Is that right? Anyway,
Yeah.
some fighting book.
That's written by Tim Seeley.
Oh, is it? I didn't realize that.
And the whole thing with like the co-author of this is like really interesting. I think she's like an internet personality.
Oh, we should have covered this book.
It's a Black Label book. I'm looking forward to reading that one.
Cool. Yeah, but I think that this book kind of had a little bit of a runway, for better or for worse, for Marvel. And I don't know. Yeah, they're coming back with the Darkhawk.
This is a 1 of 5.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
And then I think there's an ongoing series.
Why did they give a 1 of
year.
5 an intro one shot?
I don't know. That's weird, right?
It seems like you give an intro one shot to a big ass book that you're going to do.
Was the intro one shot the first appearance of this guy?
The new Darkhawk?
The new Darkhawk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I guess that matters if you're like relaunching Darkhawk.
Yeah. So what happened in the first one?
Well, how does Darkhawk end? I have no idea. Like, is that what you're saying?
Well, if you introduce this character, like he finds the suit in this issue.
So I don't know either. I didn't read the one shot. But like he's having these like trip out things that kind of look like Darkhawk. Like when he's like MSing.
Oh.
And I feel like that probably gets explained in the one shot. But that's my only.
Okay.
Because when that was happening, I was like, I don't get. There's something I'm not getting here.
Yeah.
That must have been.
That's another thing that could be perceived as insensitive if MS gives you like premonitions.
Right.
Like MS itself is giving you like sci-fi superpowers.
Yeah. So.
Don't quote us on that though. We haven't read it.
On the one shot. Yeah. We're just speculating on what the one shot might be. Who knows?
Cool.
I do love, my favorite line is like, he looks like more badass War Machine. And it's like, I love that they're making fun of like, that it's like, all Darkhawk is like a suit. I think he had a
cool
pole.
design.
I think he had a pole. Like a
bow?
A staff, yeah. A bow staff.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they bring that back.
Gotta have a bow staff.
Bow staffs were such a good weapon in the 90s. And they've really like lost out now to like, I don't know, guns.
I thought you were going to say nunchucks.
Nunchucks, swords. Yeah, seems like Donatello's weapon, really.
I think Donatello, yeah. Oh, Leonardo really propelled swords and did a lot for swords in the 21st century.
Yeah, but katanas. Nobody's
Yeah,
caring about them
no.
anymore. Big forks, what I say.
Yeah, BFs.
That was an episode.
Bye. First Issue Club is brought to you by Boulevard Brewing Company via Space Camper Cosmic IPA. Our music is courtesy of the fine folks at Primary Color Music. You can find, friend, and follow us on social media at First Issue Club or firstissueclub.com. You can support First Issue Club by joining us on our Patreon for additional content at patreon.com/firstissueclub.